Welcome back to the Through the Lane podcast. I know I released an episode, I think Saturday night, and I promoted it yesterday, and it was done Thursday, but yesterday mainly was very eventful, football wise, and also a little bit of announcements on what's going on with the podcast. So I think I got the studio that I started off with on YouTube last semester for this upcoming Thursday, and episodes are going to come out either Tuesdays or Thursdays. They're going to be recorded on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I think that the episodes will be recorded Thursdays at Tech, and then will come out either Thursday night, Friday, or Saturday morning. Just depends on what all I have going on. And so I think I may have a few guests appear, and then there's one guy that I've been talking to that's looking at that was interested in 20. So that's all coming up soon. This is going to be a shorter episode because the longer episode will come out Thursday, or will be recorded Thursday. But there's just some eventful things I wanted to talk about that happened so I don't end up forgetting. That is very interesting. And starting off, we're going to start off with the Colts. And if you didn't see, Anthony Richardson, it's like the third or fourth quarter. It's like third or fourth down, and they're like close, and they want to go for it. It's third down. And he like taps his head, and it universally means in football that you're tired, something's wrong, you need a sub. And what is a crucial drive for them? And so he taps out, right? And he says, I was just tired, I was out of breath. And it looks bad for a guy that has not played a lot. Has not really got a lot of starts up under his belt either. So it was kind of crazy to see him just tap out. And then also, Damien Woody this morning, get upset at it. He was like, it's extremely disrespectful to the offensive line. He plays every single snap. Some do field goal. So you add that. So we'll say 65 snaps a game. Then 4 field goals, 68, 69 snaps a game. There's no reason for you to tap out. Your conditioning should not be that bad. Especially for a guy, and it looks bad for Anthony Richardson, right? Because this is a team, and Pat McAfee said it a lot, that there's a lot of money in this team, and that they should be winning more games, and that you've got to start looking at winning. Joe Flacco puts you in that best position, but Anthony Richardson's got the highest potential. Anthony Richardson goes like 10 to 22 every game. He was 10 to 32 yesterday. It was 175 yards, and he tapped out. And this is a good Colts team. I mean, we're looking at, they don't have a true number one receiver, but they have a lot of guys. There's a new guy that goes for 100 yards every week. Or this Sunday, Josh Downs, 109. Week before, it can be Michael Pittman. Then the week before that, Alec Pierce is like 3 100-yard games. And then you have A.D. Mitchell, who's coming up in the wings, who looks pretty good. All right? So this is a deep team. Yeah, Josh Downs has 351 yards receiving. Michael Pittman has 352 yards receiving. Alec Pierce has 394 yards receiving. I mean, this is a deep group. I mean, this is a really deep group. A.D. Mitchell's got 118, but that's fine. As their receiver 4, you'll take that. It just didn't look good. I mean, it just did not look good as a team in a very winnable game to do that, right? To just kind of wuss out, chicken out. Just didn't look good. I mean, it just, if I'm the Colts, right, I'm looking at free agency next year. And I'm looking at Sam Darnold, who's on a 1-year deal. I think everyone forgets that this Sam Darnold's probably not going to be in Minnesota next year because it's a 1-year deal. He's playing lights out. And they got J.J. McCarthy. Also, I'm looking at Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, who, depending whoever comes out of that situation, if Russell Wilson ends up walking, you sign him. Matthew Stafford's another guy I look at, where you've got to look at potentially bringing in, because Anthony Richardson, this is a prove-it year. And they just don't, they're what? Let me look. They're 4-4, 1-3 in their division. It just doesn't look good. I mean, nothing about them screams good. It's just he has thrown for 958 yards, but he has 7 interceptions to 4 touchdowns. He has 5 fumbles. He's responsible for 12 turnovers in 6 games. 6 of the 8 games, 12 turnovers. He's turnover. He has more than 1 turnover per game. He is throwing more picks than games played. He's played 6 games. He's got 5 fumbles, and he has 7 interceptions to 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. Just doesn't look good. I mean, he's not developing quick enough. And what they should have done last year is started Gardner Minshew. And I don't know if you beat Gardner Minshew or what, but you should have had him on the bench because he's such a raw player. Everyone said this. He had less than 15 games out of high school. I think combined in high school. Yeah, and from high school into college, he had less than 15 games played, started. It may have just been college. It was one of the two, right? He has not started a lot of games. That's the narrative. So he's going to be really raw. Well, everyone says he needs game reps. You need game reps. Well, you need a solid foundation that this kid does not have because he did not start most of his last year in Florida. Yeah, I think it was he started 15 games. Because he mainly just came off the bench or whatever because the starting quarterback did bad. And then he played 6 games his last year and was drafted. It's all potential, like Zach Wilson. It looks a lot like Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson played better. Zach Wilson is playable. Anthony Richardson is not. I mean, this is a team that is good too. You can't just be wasting this team away. Yes, could they use a better tight end? Sure. But they've got 4 really good receivers. Josh Downs missed 2 games, and he is within 43 yards of being tied in receiving yards on the team. I mean, Joe Flacco. So to put this in perspective, Joe Flacco played in 4 games, threw for 716 yards, and had 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. Anthony Richardson in 6 games and Anthony Richardson also, this is a damning stat, has 44.4% completion percentage. That is terrible. How long can you plate that? I mean, how long can you be yeah, I'd take that. I mean, at some point you've got to look at that and be no, man, we need to move on. We've got to move forward. Because, and that's just bad, dude. I mean, it's pitiful. And then him acting like it was okay in the press conference. Dude, yesterday was the day of just dumb decisions by NFL players. Joe Flacco, to me, I'd start him. Well, back to what I said, they should have had someone to start over him, started Gardner Minshew, take the lumps, and then him build that foundation, and then this year. So he can at least be a league average passer. He's not even league average. And his running is getting him hurt to the point where he's unplayable. I mean, it's not good at all. I mean, what parts do you say? There's a little bit of talent. He makes, insane throws. But that one throw is followed up by 7 incompletions and 2 turnovers. I can't get over the tapping out. The turnovers is so bad, but then on top of that, he just taps out. What are we doing? What are we doing? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I want to look at their depth chart. This is infuriating. Because this is a solid team. You've got Ryan Kelly as your center, Quentin Nelson, who at one point was a great guard. Defensively, this is a solid team. They play hard. With guys that will eventually come back like Jelani Woods, Juwan Winfrey, Tyquan Lewis, Samson Bukim, I just think I just think it was ridiculous. I think it's a bad look. I'd bench him for a few games. I mean, I'd honestly just say you're not playing. Sorry, too bad. Because now you can't trust him. And someone said this. They were like, and Shannon had a great thing. You let the team down, and it set the tone for the team, because now the team looks like they're soft. You were like, well, is the team soft? Is this a coaching issue? What is this that he's allowed to get his conditioning away with this and think it's okay? And then say you're in charge down the field and you look at your offensive line and it's like, I need one more good drive. Let's run out the clock. Let's finish this game. Let's pound it. I'm going to look at him and be like, well, you didn't do that for me. When we had the game in hand, he's not, he can't motivate people now, because now he doesn't have that factor because he tapped out. I mean, he literally tapped out. When his offensive lineman play every down, when he missed time. He missed 2 games. So he should not be that tired. I just think it's ridiculous. If you look at every stat, Joe Flacco is a mile away better quarterback. Anthony Richardson completes 44% of his passes. Flacco, 66. Yards per game, Anthony Richardson is 160. Joe Flacco is 179. Anthony Richardson accounts for 5 touchdowns. Flacco accounts for 7. Anthony Richardson accounts for 12 turnovers. Flacco accounts for 1. What are we doing here? I just think it's bad. Next up, the Jets. Dude, it was bad by the Jets. They lose this game in wonderful fashion, where you should have won this game. Drake May goes down, and they don't throw a passing touchdown. The Patriots don't. The Patriots have one of the worst, they're just one of the all-around worst teams. Slowly selling players off, and you lose by 3. They can't run the ball. Garrett Wilson had a good game. Davante Adams hasn't looked good yet. Again, their tight end spot is not good. They don't have a true number 3 receiver. Mike Williams is not playing right now. Defensively, they've been a letdown since Saleh got fired. I mean, you got made look stupid by the Patriots. This team they're going to have to blow it up. I trade Davante Adams. I trade Breece Hall. I trade Solomon Thomas. I mean, that defense is young, but I trade everybody else. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to retire. And you just start over. And Aaron Rodgers isn't even healthy. His body is failing him. He is, again, listed as limited, as he is every week. It's a joke. It's just a joke. October, he had 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Before that, he had 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, and then since then, he's played bad. And I mean, a lot of this goes on him. And we're going to talk about a quarterback that's in a very similar situation, but younger. And you should have seen it his last year in Green Bay when you had 26-12. Because Garrett Wilson hasn't fully cemented himself. Davante Adams is weird. That's an odd situation. Mike Williams is coming off an ACL tear. You offensive line you're trying to put, patch together, and did a terrible job of doing that. You then draft an offensive lineman who's bad. You could have had Brock Bowers, who has top 10 in receiving yards right now, with terrible quarterback play in Vegas. So you miss out on that. Jermaine Johnson goes down with an ACL tear. Will McDonald's been subpar rushing the passer if he doesn't get that 3-sack game. I mean, his last year, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions for Aaron Rodgers. Second most interceptions since his first full year as the starter in Green Bay. And he had 26 touchdowns in that. Tied for his lowest in a full season. And that lowest came in 2016. It just didn't look good. I just didn't. This team needs to be blown up. Next up, Dallas Cowboys, right? That's bad, man. It is. And I said this before coming in the year, and I called this. Dak Prescott is overrated. He can't win you big games. There's a lot of turnovers. And, everyone said, well, his last playoff game wasn't terrible. Yeah, because the Packers let him get down the field and score. If you take away that last little bit, it was terrible. And what was he again? Terrible. But the stats don't look as bad because he kind of could come back a little bit. Throws 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But they can't run the ball. Notice the CeeDee Lamb stats came in that last little bit. You're playing a decimated 49ers team. Decimated. Jordan Mason goes down. But George Kittle lights you on fire. And again, Brock Purdy played well. This Brock Purdy hate's got to get out of hand. Everyone waits for his bad game. It's but then when he plays good, you're like, no, not going to do anything. Brock Purdy's one of the more underrated quarterbacks, and Dak Prescott's overrated. So Dak Prescott's stats should have updated by now. He's got 10 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. His QBR is 47.2. That is 23rd in the league. He does not look good. Just not at all. And he's always been a high turnover guy. In 2022, he had 23 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. Last year, he has a good year, but still turns over the ball a lot. And he's doing it again. He's about to pass last year's turnover or interception total. And he's not even halfway through last year's, numbers. It doesn't look good. This team is terrible. Micah Parsons is overrated. They don't have a pass rush. Their corners are ball hogs when they get going and they have confidence. But when they don't have confidence, they get just attacked and harassed and pushed around. All right, this defense is not what they wanted it to be. Safety is a bit of an issue. They talk a lot of crap, but they can't back it up. This team just does not look good. 2 picks, and that literally threw away the game. Ricky Pearsall played well though. It's bad. Like Dalvin Cook, they promoted Dalvin Cook like he was going to be the savior of this team. He wasn't good last year in 15 games. Last year in 15 games, he had 67 carries for 214 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. He looked terrible. His fall off has been so aggressive, it's crazy. I think he tore his knee at some point. But, again, they acted like him getting promoted all of a sudden when he looked bad last year. Yeah, I think he tore his ACL and he came back. Or something happened, but he looked bad last year. And he has not returned to form. And he's only 29. Again, another reason why the running back market is so bad is he gets done with that contract, and he barely made it through the contract, let's be honest here. And they cut him to save money. And it just looks, it does not look like the same guy. And it's terrible. The Cowboys are just bad. The Cowboys are just really, really bad. I mean, the Commanders, and we're going to talk about that game in just a second. It goes Commanders, Eagles, Cowboys, Giants. And you don't get me started on the Giants. We'll talk about that on Thursday's episode, if I remember. But now you're stuck. I mean, no one's going to want Dak's contract. And they talked about it's time for a rebuild. But, like, with what? With what? Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb are your two only young guys. Dak Prescott's going to have an untradeable contract. What do you do? And so, where do you go from there? And I want to double back on the Jets thing. The Jets, if they blow it up, I said Sam Darnold. I don't think they go after Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold wants to go back to New York after what happened to him. If I'm the Jets, I would just rip it to shreds and I draft, let's say, Dylan Gabriel, and you just let him run with it. But it was a bad weekend for some bad teams. Now, the very interesting one this was embarrassing. Chicago and Washington, and I think Matt Eberflus has lost his job. He's going to get fired at some point this year. They're 0-3 away. I mean, and that OC, I think he gets fired too. Because Romeo Duzé does not look good. Keenan Allen's not getting involved. DJ Moore has, 200 yards? 341 yards. But he was only targeted 4 times, 2 catches for 27 yards. Romeo Duzé was targeted more. You've got to scheme plays open for him. Caleb Williams was 10 of 24 for 131 yards. DeAndre Swift, everyone wanted his head on a stake, and he's carried this offense. And he's carried it. When you look at Washington and Jaden Daniels, who I said before the year was my personal number 1 overall pick because I like what he did and he was older. And he's done it. I mean, the brother has done it. He looks good. 72% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 fumbles. He's got 1,700 yards passing and 400 yards rushing. That's 2,100 yards from scrimmage. And he's single-handedly turned around this franchise. I think teams whiffed. Because Caleb Williams, his Heisman year and his freshman year, looked so good, but I think everyone didn't look at his last year in USC where he looked suspect. And he did not look like a leader. And now, yes, and we're about to get to that last play, he looked like he was trying to lead his team, but it was kind of just ridiculous. And Matt Eberflus fumbled it. 6 seconds left. You let them get in position. Usually you toss the ball around, Hail Mary, you're too safe. There should be 3 guys down and 2 guys up. And then 3 guys rushing the ball. Rex Ryan was saying rush 5, and he's a better, he's one of the all-time great defensive minds, so I believe him. But I'd have just played it and made you throw it. Montez Sweat wasn't even in the game then. Either play. And you had 3 timeouts. And Tyreek Stevens is there yapping his mouth for 2 straight plays. And then comes out this morning because Noah Brown catches that touchdown pass, that was his guy that caught the pass. But he wasn't paying attention. He saw the circle. He jumps up, tips the ball himself, and then his guy catches it after he's flapping his gums. But again, then also you rush 4, but technically 3 because you have a spy. But that guy you could tell has never done spy work before because he doesn't know where to go. He's just standing there watching him. And then when Jaden Daniels starts running back, instead of walling him off or trying to wall him off to either pull him front of the pocket so where he has to take off and run, or you keep him on from the side where you don't want him to run. And to start that, they let him run to his right. You need to put him to his left. But the spy's on his left, which made no sense. But then the spy let him come back into the pocket and step up and throw. And then it tips and scores. And then Matt Eberflus, the most nonchalant answer ever. It's a joke. The Bears are bad, dude. I don't buy stock in the Bears. Again, this defense looks good for Washington. They're 6-2. They look good. I mean, it's a team that should not been. I mean, the Bears, dude. It is a joke. If I'm Matt Eberflus, Tyreek Stevenson's bench for two games, they should not be playing. And that's a joke. He's taunting the crowd. The game is not over. The game could be over if Matt Eberflus called a better play defensively, but he didn't. And then he lets them get those 13 yards, and then they're in attack distance. Like, this receiving core doesn't look great. They're running the ball better. But, I mean, Khalil Herbert played 6 games. That brother was good for them last year. Past 2 years. He had 31 yards in 13 games in 2022. He's on pace for 1,000. Last year, in 12 games, he had 611 yards. Yeah, he's not playing at all, even as RB2. It's terrible. I'd clear house if I'm Chicago. Because it looks so bad. It just looks terrible. I mean, I fight Matt Eberflus now. And then I want to talk about one more thing. The Titans, man, this is one of the piss poor teams in the league. The offensive line's bad. They can't run the ball. They got a really good receiving crew, but like can't get the ball to those receivers. Will Levis was terrible. Mason Rudolph has almost passed Will Levis' stats in 3 games. Tajay Spears isn't used enough. Man, this team doesn't look good. And then they're just like subtracting for their defense. This is a great, or not great, but really good defense, and that you're just letting just get used to wasted away. It's terrible. It's awful. I mean, this team is hysterically bad. Terrible. Traylon Burks is hurt now, so Nick Westbrook-Ikine, who looks good. I think he went to Iowa. He's got 3 touchdown catches, and he has 5 total receptions. He leads the team in touchdown receptions. Calvin Ridley finally got over the 300-yard mark, thanks to Mason Rudolph. I mean, they've got to, at this point that Will Levis isn't the future. You're going to have to draft a quarterback. And you're going to have to figure out right tackle. I mean, I moved Skoronski back to right tackle. That's where I think he's drafted at. It's bad, dude. I mean, it's a bad weekend for bad teams, unless you're the Patriots. And then Cleveland beat Baltimore. And I said Jameis Winston's the savior. I mean, their dude, Cedric Tillman, balled out. Had like over 100 yards receiving. He had 99 yards receiving after last week having over 100 yards. Elijah Moore had 85. Jerry Jeudy had 79. David Njoku looked good. Nick Chubb starting to come along. He threw 3 passing touchdowns. And he probably won't be let back. And Jameson Winston's another guy that certain teams, like, let's say, the Colts, need to look at. Just guys that can hold it over, win you some games, put you in play, and you got great receivers. Because I don't think Anthony Richardson's the answer there right now. But yeah, Baltimore's secondary looks terrible. They're now 5-3. I mean, but it's just an interesting week of football. College football is not as exciting this weekend, but I mean that's going to happen after some insane weekends, back to back to back to back. But that's all for today's episode. There'll be more on Thursday.